The following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Hello and welcome to the Happiness Jungle TV show. I am your guest host, CamiBaker.com, and today we have some celebrities and some fun people and people that I met through Facebook of all things, but also through Realtors for Recovery and purpose-driven marketing and all that fun stuff that I do. We have Kathi and Chris Sullivan in the house.
Hello.
Hi. And we're going to be speakers at one of the events, and we're just doing all kinds of fun promotions. So I'm gonna let you take it, Kathi. Tell our people a little bit about yourself.
Well, first I'm going to laugh at the celebrity word because I don't feel that at all. We are probably the most two normalest people you'll ever meet in your whole entire life. Unfortunately, we have been given a life that brought us to the forefront and meeting beautiful people like yourself. I actually met Chris at one of my very first talks. And as you know, I speak about my daughter, Taylor. She passed away in 2008, senior year in high school from underage drinking. So you said Realtors for Recovery. When I first originally met you through Facebook of all things, it was because I'm a realtor. And my husband's in recovery 10 years now, and we live, breathe, and eat it all day long. So it's who we are. So when I saw those two words together, I said to Chris, hey, check this out, Chris. And he goes, oh, God, what are we doing now? And as he usually does. But that's, how we became who we are today 10 years later. I am a totally different person today than I was in October of 2008 before I lost my Tay. Recovery was not something that was in my life. I didn't necessarily know anything about it, nor did I know anything about the loss of a child.
Do you want to share a little bit about your story? Or?
I did, yes. My daughter Taylor, she was senior in high school, King Philip, Plainville, Mass area, so not that far from here. She passed away from underage drinking after homecoming night. She ended up going to a few series of house parties. Then they ended up going to the homecoming game because it was homecoming night. And she had been drinking with some friends. And after the football game, they decided they were going to go party in the woods. And where they went was actually an old abandoned airport. And she went in with about 22 friends, about 500 yards into the woods. And unfortunately, she did not get to come out of those woods. Noticed she was missing Saturday morning. She was going to be having a sleepover with friends. Started looking for her, and then my worst nightmare started. It was a 3-day search for her. There was so many people involved looking for her. And they ended up finding her on the following Monday. And she had actually drowned in 2 feet of water. And it was all because of the alcohol in her system. And it was all because of poor choices from Tay. And unfortunately, her friends and a series of other people, myself included as a parent. And then that Monday morning in that field, I was no longer the person that I was. But a new, incredible woman walked out of that field that I was not expecting. And Taylor's purpose and life was defined to me in a matter of moments. And we talk about purpose and recovery, and everybody recovers from something. And little did I know I'd be recovering with this gorgeous little human being here that I married 2 years later. Actually met him at my first talk 2 months later. She passed in October, and I went to my first school in January somehow. And he was there at the parent night because there was so much more I wanted to be able to do myself as a parent and to teach the community. So he was actually there, and he was there because his sponsor, who I happened to have gone to high school with, was actually in the audience with him, and he had brought him there because he was 5 weeks sober from an alcohol and drug addiction.
Well, let's let him say who him is.
Yes. Go, Mr. Christopher.
I'm Chris Sullivan. Number one, I'm in recovery, 10 and a half years. Used to play in the NFL. You're talking about that night quick. first time I saw her talk. I remember I had a lot of problems at the time. My life was obviously upside down. I was 5 weeks sober. I had no money. I was all alone. My family wanted nothing to do with me. I thought I owed the IRS $700,000 because I was getting all these notes, and I was on probation, and the whole thing that went with my substance use disorder and addiction. And but I remember walking out, and I remember saying to myself, like, I'll keep my problems, you know. And so I remember when I sat there, I didn't look at her going, I'm going to get married.
I'm going to marry that girl 2 years later.
You know, she was a mess that first talk, that first night. And I think she pursued me.
I think I might have.
And, you know, and the rest is history. And, you know, we go around and talk, and yeah, I played football, and I guess that's a storyline, you know, but that's not what either one of us is about. And even when I played, I didn't like the attention. I'm a very private person, quiet person, shy person. If
Total
it was left
opposite of me.
up to me, I would be at home right now with my dogs. I've been that
Yes.
way my whole life. And that's part of the reason I kind of struggled and went down the path I did. There was a lot of other factors, but I was someone that isolated. I always battled anxiety, depression, felt different, spent summers alone. Even though I did all these sports and I was on teams, I was a different person when I went home. And I'm still trying to change that, you know. It's a
Day by
long
day.
process, but
Well, just to share with you, Chris, I too am in recovery, if
Yes.
that makes you feel any better.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Good job.
And isolation
Yeah.
is one of the worst things that we can do, because when we isolate, what is the halt? Hungry, angry, lonely, and tired. If you feel
Yeah.
any of those, or God forbid, all four of them at the same time, you're in big trouble. So I hear you.
yeah, I'm a work in progress still, you know. Things don't change overnight. I was a certain person for a long time. When I turned my life around, I'm like, oh, everything, like we go to schools. Not my thing. Never will be. I can go to 1,000 schools. It's going to be like my first one every time.
Yep.
I'm still going to get anxious. I'm still not going to want to do it. I'm still going to get sick to my stomach. I can do physical work for 16 hours a day, and I'm fine. Half-hour talk, 45-minute talk, I'm toast. Like, that's me. Like, I thought by now, like, I'm like, okay, I've accepted the fact that's who I am. And that's, I have a lot of positive attributes, but that's kind of one of the negative ones.
Well,
you
what
know?
a powerful,
Yeah.
powerful duo you make. You know,
It's amazing.
two totally different stories, yet so interconnected. You
It
know.
is. It's absolutely amazing how it works, because Chris came originally and he was watching me speak. And I remember he was probably 6 months clean at that point. And he looked at me and said, Kathi, I really should have been dead, because this big man got down to a 160-pound person in his height of his addiction. And he said, I should never have survived it. There's a purpose for this. And I said, well, you know, you got to figure it out. And he's like, I should be sharing my story. And I said, absolutely. And I'll never forget one point we were at a school with a friend of his from New Beginnings who runs a nonprofit as well. And he literally just shoved Chris out there after I had spoken. And he was like all anxious. He's like, I'm sweating. I'm like, just tell them you're a sweater, whatever. They don't care, you know, and then it just started. And it's interesting to see, because when we do go to schools and speak, we always, you know, the kids never know who we are. We always ask, don't introduce us, don't tell them what it's about, keep it as simple.
Sometimes they have to publicize.
Sometimes they have to, but we try to keep it, you know, so the kids aren't necessarily aware of the story behind the story. And every school we go to, we get set up and he stays down here in the auditorium near the stage. And then I go to the front door and I greet those kids, usually high school, sometimes middle schools. And I'm like, good morning, good morning, good morning, because I want them to see joy. We are on the happiness jungle. I am the most happiest human. I know that Lyn-Dee says she's the happiest human in the world. I'm going to run her for money here, because I am probably the second best, closest. But I greet those kids and I comment on the girls with the buns in their head, the blue eyes, long-haired boys, whatever it is, comment on colors. And the kids look at me and they're taken back and they smile and they interact. but they also think I'm just some crazy substitute teacher. So then when we start talking, I walk up to the front and they realize I'm the speaker of the day. And then when they realize that I lost my daughter, they cannot picture this being a mom who lost her kid. And I try to explain to them, you know, we all get hit by something. No matter what happens in our life, something's going to hit you at some point. And you have to be able to choose happiness. I say that in every talk I speak. And they get it. And it sets the tone. Chris then talks, because he always talks first and then I speak afterwards. But the kids will come up to him and you'll have big, strong men coming up to him and say, I suffer from anxiety, depression. And they're able to express it, you know, and then kids will come up to me and, you know, say, I drink, I shouldn't drink, I do this, I shouldn't drink. I didn't realize how important I was. And it's about drinking, it's about drugs, it's about self-harm, it's about suicide. We talk about bullying. These kids come up and they share everything with us. And my bracelets for my daughter say I'm here for a reason. We met you online for a reason. You do what you do for a reason. You have this program here for a reason. And you don't know when that one thing that someone's going to say to you is going to matter, you know, and it's about a purpose.
You know, you mentioned the self-harm too and things. My daughter and some of her friends were cutters back in the day. And when I was in school, I never even would have thought of that. And there was a point where I was like, why would you do that? And do you know, I saw her only one time did I actually see her do it. And it was so horrifying to me. And I remember thinking, when I was drinking, and I was stumbling all over the place, and I was doing the things that I was doing, the people who loved me saw me and thought, why is she doing that to herself? When I was thinking, why would she do that? I all of a sudden realized they were thinking, why is she doing it? Why would you do that? And how similar that really was.
And Chris talks about that as well, because explain how you realized one day when you kept hearing about
I
the kids.
used to punish myself through sports, which I never really paid attention to. And I still do a little bit to this day. Like, I need Achilles surgery. I've needed it for 20 years, but if I go to the gym, I only run because it hurts. But I did that with sports. I was only happy when there was an injury. I liked it when things hurt. Like, if I broke my wrist at the beginning of camp, it was going to be broken for the next 6 months. I was probably going to re-break it 6 times during the season. And at the time, I just but I was always like that, even growing up. Like, if I didn't have cuts, I made cuts after a game. You know, I was always kind of in that realm because that soothed me. And still, I find soothing in uncomfortable things. And I always have. Like, during the summer, we have a hot tub and a pool. I don't get in them. I wear sweatpants, sweatshirt, wool socks. And that's how I work all day. If I'm outside for 10 hours and I get heat rash, but that's my comfort zone. And it's hard for her to understand that. Like, it's hard for me to understand people that sit in a recliner. We had this conversation on the way up, or sit in a pool and do nothing. Like,
and relax.
As soon as I sit and do nothing, I get super anxious, like crazy. So that's my way of soothing. Like, and
it's all different personalities.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
But I've always been like that. And you know, when I went down the path, you know, of addiction and alcoholism, it was just another substitute. You know, for me personally, it was, I was looking for an escape. Like, at the time, I had been released by the Pittsburgh Steelers. I had had wrist surgery, and I don't blame the wrist surgery on me getting hooked on opiates, because I had already had the surgery. I don't even think I took all the prescription. I always tell people it was like the perfect storm. It was the first time in my life, like, I had always had low self-esteem, never thought I was good at anything, didn't even know why I made teams. Even though I went to Boston College, I started 48 straight games, I thought other guys were better than me. But when I got released, it was the first time, like, I came back to New England. I owned a house in North Attleboro, the town I grew up in. I grew up 5 miles from where the Patriots play. Didn't want to be a Patriot growing up, never thought I'd be good enough, personally. But I came home, and I always tell people, like, I had always struggled with stuff. Like, I was always anxious. I mean, that's why I struggled with tests, and I studied my tail off in 5 years of college. I don't think I missed class once. Like, I tried hard, but it was the first time. It was like the perfect storm. Like, I came home and I felt like a failure, and I had been released by the Steelers, and I was in a bad place, hanging around with people I knew I shouldn't have been. Not bad people, but people that didn't have any ambition or care in the world. And I started buying pain pills. And like I said, it was like my whole life, I always wanted to feel a certain way. Like I said, if I just feel like this, I'd be okay. I always tell people, like, if I feel like my wife acts or like that might be too much, but I just wanted to be able to sit and relax and breathe and be okay with myself. And when I started buying them, when I was in that state, it was the feeling I had always searched for.
Temporary.
But unfortunately, it lasted about an hour, and then
Chased.
8 years later, the little hardworking hometown kid that never had talked back to a teacher or coach, never missed class, graduated college early, got into graduate school, and all the other guys were just finishing out their time at Boston College. I was taking graduate classes. I was taking classes in the spring, summer, fall. Like I had the hardest coaches, and they all loved me because I was honest, reliable, and on time, and all those good things. And I never thought addiction would take me where it took me. And like I turned into every quality that I had to get to that point. Like I turned into everything opposite so quickly. And I can tell you personally, like maybe there's alcoholism in my family. I didn't know what an addict looked like, or substance use. I personally, that's the word I use, addict. So I know the terms have changed. That's what I call myself. I don't think it's harsh, but I didn't know what that looked like. Like I only had an image I saw on TV. Personally, I'm like, well, probably bad family, bad upbringing, dirty, hasn't showered. That's what I thought. I didn't know college graduate, strict parents, good upbringing, hardworking kid, NFL, college degree, into master's program, like little hometown hero. I didn't picture that.
What is it they say, from jail to Yale?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It's
exactly.
indiscriminatory.
I know. I found out, and it took me a long time. I struggled longer than I needed to, even though it wasn't that long compared to a lot of people. But it took me for a while to say, okay, yeah, I have a problem. Because I was like, I thought people that struggled were weak. I would never say that. I would never really judge people. I'm like, weak. No
To
willpower.
surrender would
Like,
be weak.
yeah,
Well, he did say that, to surrender, and he always said it's the strong people now. He knows that these get the best people in those halls, you know, so.
it was my fourth year in the NFL that I missed my first practice of my life. And I broke a lot of things. So I always thought, like, I could play through injury. Like, I am, like, as strong as anybody I've played with. I don't miss practice. If I break something, I finish the game or practice. I tell the trainers, I get it fixed. I'm back the next day. Concussion, who cares? Like, just play. Like, I didn't know. Like, I thought I was stronger than it.
Yeah.
And then I found out, you know. And the craziest part is, and you know this better than anything, like the people that I kind of judged, like saved my life. The people like I used to hang out with, that they were nowhere to be found. That's why I was never about the football and all that. Like it was never my thing. I was quiet. I didn't like any attention. I just wanted to go there, do my thing, and go home. I didn't want to talk to the media. I didn't talk to the papers. I gave one-word answers. You know, but I've seen both sides of life. And it's amazing, like the people in recovery. Like, I tell you that I'm in recovery before I tell anybody I play football. I don't ever talk about it. If people ask me, you play football? I'm like, yeah, North Attleboro, Papawana. North Attleboro High School, occasionally Boston College. She kicks me under the table.
I always laugh. I'm like, just let him know.
I just lost weight, but a lot
I don't
of
even
times
watch
I'm bigger.
football. I don't care. But
you asked me about myself. That's the first thing that comes out, and pretty much the only thing, unless
And I
you
love
cry.
it. Yep.
You know, I'm proud. I'm proud of both things.
We
know,
bring his Super Bowl ring to schools, and we pass it out to the first kid in the front seat, and they pass it along the whole time we speak. But at the whole entire time he's talking, he's holding his 10-year recovery coin.
now.
He's got it right
This
now.
is like my blanket.
Yeah, it's his little
you know,
whoopee.
your whoopee.
Yeah.
I'm with me all,
Yeah.
like anytime I do
It's the most important thing in our lives, actually.
That's why I ran out the door.
Yeah.
It's
I
like
gotta
you
get
can
it.
keep the ring, whatever, 50,000. I don't care if it gets stolen out of school. My parents will kill me. Like maybe the kid needs it. Maybe one of the kids needs it. All the principals freak out. Like this is
more important
yeah.
than
Well, what a
anything.
powerful example for the kids to see. It's not about ego. It's not about
Yeah.
look how great I am. I mean,
Yeah.
your humbleness is just is so attractive.
It
It's
is.
such an
It
attractive
is.
Well, you know what the
quality.
problem is? I sat like a lot of us in those seats, and like I struggled for way too long. I remember having my head down, sweating in class, thinking the teacher's going to call me, struggling with tests, feeling different.
Yeah.
Not like I could have had a million friends. I just didn't think anybody wanted to hang out with me. Like even though I had on the outside, I looked like I had everything growing up. Like everyone always told me how lucky I was. So I started to believe it. Maybe I am lucky. Like, but my family didn't communicate. I had a great upbringing, but I didn't know to talk to anybody. So on the outside, I looked like I had everything: college, graduate, NFL, local kid 5 miles away, millionaire at one point. But I was a complete mess.
You didn't have me yet. What was your problem?
I always tell people don't judge a book by its cover,
Yeah.
you know, and I wish when I was younger that I went to my father or mother and said, listen,
They
I'm
would've chatted.
struggling.
Right.
Anyone.
Right.
You know, but I was too afraid, too anxious, didn't think anybody would want to help me.
And that's the best thing that comes out of the schools, because the kids will email us afterwards. They'll talk to us. They'll go directly to their counselor. And it is like, oh, you know, it's like the moment. And we always say that, you know, the things that happen because of our losses, because of his struggles, because of my loss of my Tay, it's incredible what can happen. As you know, I mean, you see it all day long with what you do here.
So
You
do
know.
you guys speak all over the country? Do you travel a lot?
We go wherever we are called. We have never seeked it out, except for my very first time I spoke 2 months after Taylor passed. And we make it work with whatever they have, whatever we can do, wherever they need us to go, we always make it work. We speak probably 50 times a year, and we've never called anybody and said, do you want us to come speak?
And
Not
on top
once.
of that, you're a very successful real estate
I
agent.
love my real estate, yes. Yeah, no, I've been doing it for 23 years. It's a fabulous career. It's funny, I get that first time home buyer and I have that feeling, you know, but the feeling that you get from being in schools with these kids and these parents, and even the parents coming up and talking, you know, yes, I will do that. Because there were so many things as a parent that I did wrong with Taylor. And I had a 10-year-old and a 19-year-old, and Taylor was 17. And my 10-year-old grew up with a totally different mother. It was not a rite of passage anymore. It was not kids are being kids. It was 21 is 21, and there's a reason. And I set the example for Logan, which I absolutely did not for Zachary and Taylor. You know, and hindsight is everything. There's many things that happened during that weekend that we share when we do parent nights, and we, you know, talk about having kids' phone numbers, having parents' phone numbers, you know, watching out for each other's kids, see something if you say something, you know, don't assume, you know, I assumed things were okay and they weren't, you know. So there's just so many things that have come from this, and lives literally saved. Like kids have literally stayed with their friends because of that. Yeah.
And the other
Yeah.
thing too is this ripple effect. Like you think it's
Incredible.
like Taylor died, but like she could go on for 10 minutes on like Sean
People.
Flynn, like
Yeah.
well, I
People
shouldn't
who
say
have,
names,
right.
but
No, but people who have been
he's-
changed
He's
because
in my
of it.
meetings now, and her best
Right.
friend
Right, is now in recovery, and it's
working
just
and
amazing.
you,
Yeah.
like,
She's going
and
in
it-
recovery
and it's
because of Taylor.
It's because of a choice.
Right.
One night,
One night, one choice.
like, and all the different paths people take, and,
Yeah.
and some were downward spiraled, and how
Perfect,
us and
yeah,
Sean and-
yeah, exactly. Perfect example. A girl emailed me. She was 24 years old. She emailed me yesterday on Facebook. She said, "I just graduated. I walked and I graduated from high school last week." She goes, and did not know this girl, like she had not been one that had been interacting like a lot of them. She said, I dyed my hair pink because it's Taylor's favorite color, and I wanted to walk down that aisle for her because she made me realize all the struggles, I can survive this. And I was like, oh, you know, I didn't even share that with you yesterday, but the emails and the, like, I've gotten letters in the mail from kids 2 or 3 years later. Thank you so much. You know, I started yoga a couple weeks ago. 28-year-old said, you spoke at my school. I want to say thank you. It was the most powerful presentation. And it was North Attleboro High School, the first school that I spoke at with him. And I looked at it because we've spoken there twice, and one was last year, and this girl didn't look high school age. I said, how old are you, honey? And she goes, I'm 28. And I said, oh, you were Taylor's class? And she goes, yes, it was 10 years ago. Thank you.
Wow.
But, you know, like, it's been with her that long. And it's amazing how when people realize how important they are and that they can make a difference in people's lives. I speak at schools every day, and every single time I share a story with a girl from New Hampshire. And she had been one of those kids who self-harmed. And when Chris was speaking, I walked up to her and I said, honey, I saw these scars. I said, I need you to know how important you are and you mean something. And those scars here, no different than my scars in my heart every day from losing Tay. And you need to know that your choices matter and your pain does not have to define you negatively. Didn't have any bracelets that day. I gave her my St. Christopher. Christopher said to protect us, and I handed it to her, and I said, I need you to have this to know you're always protected. She said, thank you. She left there. That night, she sent me a picture with her wearing her bracelet, and she said, it will make a difference to me. A year and 2 months later, she wrote me and said she was a year clean from self-harm, all because we spoke to her. But I let every kid we speak to know.
It was on October 21st.
Yeah, it was on Taylor's anniversary, too. But I let every kid we speak to know, you know, we may be sitting here today, the three of us, with this little TV thing going on right now, but every single one of us has a voice, and we all can make a difference in someone's life, and people need to know that.
Well, and the parents can make a difference too. And my daughter was doing that. A couple of years later, we were riding in the car. We were going out to the Mall of America, as a matter of fact, out in Minnesota.
Yeah, ooh,
we
big
took
one.
this 25-hour trip because I knew that when you get in the car with a kid, they talk.
Yeah, they do.
And she had been going to therapy for a little while after that, but it had been a couple of years. And I asked her, I said, you haven't been to therapy for a couple of years. What do you think helped you?
Right.
She said, back when that was going on, she said, I started walking in her room like every half hour.
Yeah.
Are you okay?
Right.
Hey,
Check
Mama
it in.
loves you.
Right.
You know you matter.
Yeah.
You know I love you, right?
Yeah.
And I thought I was being such a pain in the butt. And I thought that she was getting irritated. But she said to me in that car ride, she said, when you were coming in my room, I knew that I was okay.
Right.
I knew that somebody did care.
That's what it's all
and
about.
it was just so amazing because I thought I was being a pain,
Yeah.
but it really did make a difference. So
It does.
I am so sorry we are at the end of the
It's
show.
all good. Well, we're glad we got to chat with you.
I'm so glad.
Yes.
I'm so glad that everything happens for a reason,
does.
right? I'm so glad you saw the Facebook post
Yep.
and that now you're part of Realtors for Recovery.
Yes,
Now
can't
we're
wait.
building a relationship together, and it's my honor to have you on the show. Thank you for being
Honor
here.
to be here with you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, guys, Happiness Jungle is taking a close for the day, but it's just such an honor to have beautiful people on the show. Thank you.
Thank you.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.